Good morning, everyone. How are you? I'm going to give everybody just a few minutes to get with me today. We're going to be talking about facing the economic downturn and planning your survival strategy. If you've been on this earth for any length of time, you've probably experienced more than one recession in your lifetime. And we're going to explore some of the history of recessions here in a few minutes as we begin our conversation. And then I'm going to, give you some insights, don't discount us old folks and our insights when it comes to the market. All right. Because it doesn't have to be just like, 2008 in order to make a ripple in the housing market. Okay. Because the housing is such a commodity that's tied to humanity. It's very important. It's important in the economy. It's important to all of us to have a roof over our heads, right? So navigating this market and the markets that come in the future are going to be very important if you're an independent, small brokerage, okay? So welcome, everyone. How are you? Seeing everyone starting to come in the door. Kelly, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. If you say hello, use your name because all I see is Facebook user. Okay, so let me know if you are a broker. Okay, because I'm primarily speaking to independent brokerages, or like Kelly, who manages her independent brokerage. Okay, so let's unpack a little bit here. Let's first look at recession itself. Now, the definition of a recession, as according to the government, is 2 quarters that have declined. Well, 2 quarters equal 6 months. All right. So keep that in mind that we are 6 months in to a poor economy before they're going to raise their hand and say, okay, we're officially in a recession. All right. But I don't know about you, but I can look around me and I can feel it in my budget that things are changing. Okay. Now, I don't want anyone to misconstrue what I'm going to say. The sky is not falling, right? Nothing comes to a screeching halt. I mean, trust me, if it didn't come to a screeching halt in March of 2020, it's not going to. Okay. Everything moves forward, and it's your job to pivot your brokerage, your small independent brokerage, when necessary in order to survive the lean times, okay? And there will always be lean times, okay? So that's the mindset that you have to have when you're an entrepreneur and you are taking on, running your own brokerage, okay? You might have been under someone else's umbrella in the last recession, okay? And I guarantee you it'll be different in this one. All right. They're all different. Okay. So I'm just going to really quickly, I'm going to share screen here and I'm going to share an article and run through some history for us, just so we've got it in our mind. And I'm only going to go back as far as it affects us, but take a look at this. Let's start with 1960 recession, very short-lived. Kennedy ended it with stimulus spending, okay? 1970 lasted 11 months. I'm not going to get into boring details here. I just want to show you the pattern here. And hopefully that will alleviate, or put some perspective on this for you, what you're going to be dealing with. Okay, if you've never taken a look at this kind of data before, historically. I love history, don't you? It often repeats itself, right? So 1973 and 75, the OPEC oil embargo. Who remembers that? I do. Okay. I remember standing in line. I remember my parents being in line at gas stations, only being able to get gasoline on even or odd days, depending on the last two digits of their license plates. Okay. So lots of things can create a recession. Okay. 1980 to 1982. I graduated high school in 1981, right? That one lasted, that one was a result of the Iranian oil embargo. 1990 to 1991 lasted 9 months. That was the 1989 savings and loan crisis. Okay. That's about when I got in the business. I got in the business about 1985. Okay. If that puts anything into perspective for you. And then in 2001, the dot-com burst, right? Not all recessions have to be tied to housing to make it an impact. Okay. 2008 to 2009. If you were here, raise your hand and say, hey, salute, right? The Great Recession. That one lasted 18 months. That one was directly resulted because of the housing industry. Okay. And that was a result of poor lending guidelines. All right. Literally, if you could put a mirror under your nose back then and breathe and create an impression on that mirror, you got a mortgage. That's poor decision making. Okay. And 2020, the recession. Are we in a recession? Or are we not in a recession? Right? Do they call it? Do they not call it? Right? But let's take a look at this. Right? If you go on here to read, this is what was interesting to me. The average recession before 2007 lasted about 11 months. The Great Recession lasted 18 months, and the 2020 recession lasted 2 months short of the record. Okay? I didn't verify what the record was. I assumed it was the 18 months Great Recession. Okay? So that's just a little kind of, okay, all right. That's history, okay? So we understand now, or hopefully that puts your mind a little bit at ease that, all right, the world isn't coming to a screeching halt. The sky is not falling. We all progress forward. The trick is to pivot your business in a timely manner to meet the demands of what's happening currently in your market, okay? That's what we're going to talk about today, right? And how you navigate a poor market, because you have to think outside the box. And again, I'm talking to independent brokerages, independent boutique brokerages that have maybe 5 or less. You could even take it up to 25. Really, I had about 25 agents at the start of that Great Recession in 2008. Now we've had our brokerage since 2000. That's when we started our business, but we expanded, and a recession always happens after a period of expansion, doesn't it? That's the nature of capitalism. All right. So every time after a good time, always after a good time, you can expect some retraction where people are going to tighten their wallets. And it's important for you as a business owner, a brokerage owner, because you don't have Wall Street money behind you. Okay. You're out there banging the streets, making your own living, right? You are an independent brokerage. You've got to be able to shift and twist and create multiple streams of income. That's the biggest ticket I can help you with, is to create multiple streams of income for moving forward. Okay. So that's what I'm going to talk about first, is investing in yourself and the habits that will save your company. Okay. The habits that will save your company. So if you're a boutique brokerage, or even if you've got 25 or less, let's talk about if you've got 25 or less under your belt, or even if you're an agent, right? Take a look at what you're depending on. If you are sitting there depending on working with buyers or working with listings, and that's where your money comes from, and you've got no other sources of income, you're going to be left standing with your pants down, okay? That's where you're going to get caught in trouble, because that's what gets pinched, okay? The beauty of it is there's 101 ways to make money in real estate, and you better start a little side hustle, real estate related. I call it a side hustle. I call it a multiple stream of income. Property management. If you're an independent brokerage, you can easily implement a property management stream of income. If you've never done that before, I can help you develop that, okay? If you've got a little bit of a team behind you and you're ready to grow and scale, you might be ready to dip your toes in the REO world, okay? But you need to have some big pockets for that if you want to jump in that arena. But if that's the direction you want to grow, I can help you with that, okay? These are things that you need to consider. How are you going to navigate this? And what can you invest in yourself to expand into something that you are not doing right now, okay? Because you have to level up into different streams of income, right? Because you can't depend on just working with buyers, and you can't depend on just working with sellers. And if you're a boutique brokerage owner or a small brokerage under 25, you even cannot depend on taking yourself out of production at this point in time, right? As much as we would all like to think that someday we can get out of production and we can have a sales force of agents under us, right? Whatever you think you need to make to take yourself out of production, you need to triple it, because I guarantee you that not all of your agents are going to weather the storm, okay? That's just a fact of life. As much as you like to think, I can help this individual level up, and then I don't have to work so hard. It sounds great in theory. I'm here to tell you, it sounds great in theory, but you never want to be left with your, your pants down, right? Because at any given moment in time, your agents can get a wild hair up their ass and think that the grass is greener someplace else, right? And leave you. That happens. Your whole sales force can leave you, all right? That happens because your shining stars are going to shine. They're going to shine. And all you can do is enjoy their ambiance when they're with you. But those rock star agents are going to move on if you're an independent brokerage. Most of them will. Okay, so you have to prepare yourself for that. You cannot depend on simple Salesforce to take you through this entire next 24, 36 months. Okay, right? You've got to be able to find new markets to grow your business. You've got to be able to do something different than you've never done before. And you got to think outside the box. I'm going to share a little something that we did. Okay. Now let's just look at this real quick. Facebook didn't come on the scene until 2004. And it probably didn't make any noise for a couple of years. I didn't get on Facebook until 2011. All right. So keep that in mind when you look at this, what I'm about to show you, before you laugh, right? I keep, of course, this Florida Realtor magazine. I assume everyone gets a magazine from their state. This is a September 2007. What's the title? Rescue Sellers with Short Sales in 2007. But what I want to show you is on the back cover, the last article in here is an article they called You Inc. And that's myself there. Whoops. That's myself and a few of my agents. We had to think outside the box, and you will have to too. Open houses, if there's no buyers in the market, open houses are not going to be very productive, are they? You have to think about how you can level that up. That's what we did. How can we level up our open houses? How can we get foot traffic in the door? We had a plethora of vacant home listings because I told you we dominated short sales in our market. I mean, I probably had a pipeline of 100 short sale listings at one point. And I had a negotiator that was hired to do nothing but the negotiations, right? So you got to put some processes and systems in place, right? So when the market started to crash and we had to level up to short sales and we had a plethora of listings that were just vacant, sitting on the market, we wanted any offer we could get just to get that short sale process going, because back then banks didn't even know what the hell they were doing when it came to short sales. Honestly, they didn't have a short sale department set up. They were not prepared. They were inundated with, just requests for modifications. And it was a horrible time, right? But you have to pivot to survive that. Okay. So that's what we did. We gathered up our troops, right? Everybody donated stuff to the yard sale, and we had a yard sale every Saturday morning for a whole year. That's what that article describes. We had a yard sale every Saturday morning at one of our vacant listings. And let me tell you what, 100 people will come out for a yard sale. And back then you couldn't get open house. Nobody, there's no buyers, I probably sold houses for like $30,000 back then. You know what I mean? That's what you have to do, is develop processes and systems that are going to save energy even in the worst market conditions. So an open house isn't going to cut it. You have to think outside the box. Today, you obviously have a lot more options, right? But you still have to navigate things. You have to navigate things because, for example, your message is going to be, if you're going to target distressed homeowners, that's a whole different message, right? You can't just put it out there on Facebook and expect it to be receptive. You're in foreclosure, you need some help, call me, right? I know private investors, they do a little dance around that. If you have an unwanted property, there are ways to word that, but I'm going to tell you, if you're going to start working distressed, it's going to be more of a direct mail campaign, honestly. So you got to put your hands on the right data. You got to have the right system in place to be able to follow through with that data on a consistent basis, because you want to keep them in your system until they list or lose it to foreclosure, right? And there will be foreclosures. Don't let anybody tell you there's not going to be foreclosures during a recession. Some people will fall through the cracks. Is it going to create a housing crisis? No, because this recession isn't a result of a housing crisis, okay? But what we are dealing with in this recession is runaway inflation, okay? And if historically you'll look at that, you've already got people telling you, you probably have already guessed, prices aren't going to come down this time because it's a different animal, right? It's a different animal. It's, prices are going to get up there and they stay. They're not going to Band-Aid and go. Last time they Band-Aid and bounced. Because of their shortages, supply and demand shortages. This is all basic stuff that you're hearing out there, isn't it? All right. So, but you can't depend on just buyers or just sellers. You have to get into something that's going to create some residual income for you. You have to be able to increase your sales without increasing your market budget. Okay? Today, that's so easy with organic marketing with Facebook. That is so easy to do. I still today email my database, right? Because back in the day, email was the thing that was going to sustain you through a recession, was your email list. Those who were smart nurtured their databases with email. I think that was probably the birth of canned crap emails. Okay, I'm not talking about canned crap emails. I do not send a campaign ever to my database, right? Okay. And, if you haven't thought about creating a one-on-one relationship with your audience in your email, you need to focus on that. There are certain triggers and things that you can put in your consistent email delivery that's going to develop a relationship for you, right? And it's minimal expense. Okay. So these are things that you have to focus on, right? You might not have 2 hours a week to create videos for YouTube. Okay. I'm just going to say it, right? Unless that's your main platform and you're all in on that and you can cut that down and do it timely and quicker, then it's going to be more cost effective for you. But you've got to focus on where that time is going to be invested. And you've got to look at things that are going to cut things out of your budget. You're just going to have to do that. It really, there's only, when you're a brokerage owner, there's only a couple of things that you can do. You can cut payroll and you can cut rent. Okay? So you're going to want to keep a keen eye on those two expenses moving forward, So maybe you might want to renew your office lease when it comes around in the next 6 months. These are some things that you want to put into the trigger of thinking about because, I'm going to tell you, we gave up our office space and it didn't affect us one little bit. You know why? Because we have multiple streams of income. I can literally run my property management business from my phone. Okay? Literally from my phone. Okay? So these are some things, if you're struggling with property management, I'm just going to say that too. If you're struggling with property management, get some help with that because it should be really easy. Okay? I work with Brent. I've talked about Brent a lot in the past. Brent has been with me for several years. He started working with me when he first got his real estate license. He'll tell you he didn't really like people, so it was a struggle for him, to get some footing to work with buyers and sellers. But we started developing a property management business for him. And over the course of time, he has gotten his brokerage license and he has branched off and stepped into his own brokerage business with a full portfolio of property management that has a residual income for him of probably close to $10,000. You know what I'm saying? It's residual. There are different directions you can take. You can go into short-term rentals, long-term rentals, all kinds of options in short-term rentals. I'm having a lot of fun with short-term rentals. Okay. That is something we've implemented. Okay. Hear me. Short-term, I've done long-term rentals for years, since 2008, probably, right? Because we filled a void back then. Today we branched off into the short-term rentals. Why would you do that going into a recession? Well, going into recession, there will be the haves and the have-nots. It's the middle that's going to get squeezed, okay? But I guarantee you, those people who have will travel. They will travel, okay? So this is another void that I can fill and create a stream of income for myself, okay? So these are things that you think about. These are things that you unpack. These are things that when you're working with me, that we drill down into for your business, okay? You've got to invest in yourself and develop habits that are going to save your company. And I say micro habits, I'm really big on micro habits. Any of the colleagues that I work with will tell you, I'm really big on micro habits. I mean, literally, I can send my email, in less than 15 minutes to my entire database once a week. I can send 5 cards a day in less than 30 minutes a day and to my database and send out cards of 400 people. I can welcome hundreds of people into my Facebook groups each and every week that are, funneled down into my website, that are funneled into our CRM, that are retargeted with our Facebook ads. I mean, you have to have tools in place that are going to do the heavy lifting for you and work smarter and not harder and on a budget, okay? I'll be honest with you, the tools that I use today are the tools that survived the last recession, okay? They are tried and true. I don't need to chase any shiny objects because I already know that I've drilled down. I've already eliminated the boomtown and the Vulcan and all of the bells and whistles that are available to you and that you are inundated with on a daily basis, right? All the tools, you know what I mean? You can't use all the tools. You have to put a stake in the ground with what you can build with, right? And what you can sustain with, right? And what you've got the bandwidth to work with, all right? If you don't have the bandwidth to produce studio quality YouTubes, right? Then don't. Put out a YouTube video and don't worry about it because done is better than perfect, all right? If you're going to put the stake in the ground for that, go for it. You know what I mean? But make sure that you don't have any holes in your bucket, right? That's what you have to make sure. If you're going to put forth the effort, you got to make sure that you're taking advantage of all of that you're putting forth the effort for, right? So you don't want to create an audience if you've got no way to drive it to your traffic, right? You got to make sure that your efforts are panning off for you, okay? There's no sense in making, TikTok videos if you can't drive that traffic to your website, okay? It's all fun and games unless you can drive that traffic to your website, okay? These are the things that you need to focus on. Otherwise, that's not an activity that is going to be conducive to surviving a recession. It'll be fun, but it won't be productive, okay? It'll look good because you got a big audience, but it won't be productive, okay? Because you want to know why? Because probably buyers and sellers, in Taiwan or all over the globe aren't going to reach out to you. You've got to reach into your 15-mile radius to find business. You got to roll up your sleeve and get into your community, okay? And if you've got websites that can produce data for you for foreclosures or probates, things that are going to not go away, right? You have to think about those types of avenues that are going to pan out, right? Because If your marketing message still says, buy a home because it's a good time to buy a home, do they really believe you? Or it's really a time to sell your house because you got equity, but is it a good time to buy? I mean, if you sell today, are you really going to level up? Level up buyers are not in the market really anymore, are they? Because they've already done it between 20 and 20, they've already done it. Those buyers are. Moving forward, it's going to be a different motivation. It's going to be a different motivation. Okay. It's not that people have to wait for the prices to come down. They will be foolish. Okay. The prices will not come down. Interest rates are going to go up, but they're not going to crash the prices. I bought my first home in 1985. I closed in February of 1985, and I had a VA loan. It was a new construction Miranda home, and I paid 12.5%. 12.5% in 1985. Okay, so trust me when I say financing will get creative enough to get the buyer in the door. It's not going to be, a lack of buyers wanting to buy because they got to put a roof over their head. Okay, you're not going to have, we've got a lack of inventory here. That's what we've got. That's what you've got to understand. So where is that inventory going? Where is it going? Who's buying it? Who's selling it? You know what I'm saying? Take a deep dive into your MLS and look at what has bought and sold in the last 30 days in your market. If you pull up 10 listings and 8 of them are owned by an LLC, what does that tell you? Who's buying and selling in your market? That's who you need to target. Okay? It's not going to be the mom and pop that, has got more kids than they bargained for and they need more space. They're not making that move right now. Okay? They are tightening up their belt. So you have to think in terms of who's buying and selling. Okay? So I hope that helps somebody. I've babbled enough. I'll let you go. I am going to start a broker mastermind group, and I'll put some details out shortly. It's only going to have limited seating. It's only going to be an 8-person group, and we're going to do something in a separate pop-up group, and I'll let you know the details in the next couple of weeks. Okay, but look for that, and I think it'll fill a lot of void for a lot of independent brokers that are going to be looking for ways to survive. Because think about this, if you get $30,000 off your property management business and you get $30,000 after expenses on your BPO REO business, or you get $30,000 off your sales, you piece all of these together and you're going to, this is how you're going to have a 6-figure income that maintains through a recession. Because, unless you're in a metropolitan city and your numbers are bigger, all right? Right? I don't think anything I say probably, but if you're in a metropolitan city, you can say what I got to say and multiply it by 10. Tenfold. You should have access because you've got the population. You should be able to do all of this tenfold, all right? But I'm talking to mom and pops across the United States, that are the bread and butter of this industry, the small independent brokerages that are making a living in this world. Okay? All right. I can help you navigate the next couple of years if you need help. Talk to you later. Have a great weekend. Okay? Bye-bye.